Spoilers.
2020 was possibly the best thing that could have happened to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because it allowed for WandaVision to be our return to the MCU after a 1.5-year hiatus. Personally, I was thankful for the break. I kinda wish it had happened after Endgame and not Spider-Man, but whatever. Either way, the break allowed us to breathe and start to get hyped for the triumphant return of the MCU, and WandaVision was the best option Marvel had for that return. Initially, it was supposed to be Black Widow, which, 1, is a character who died the last time we saw her, and 2, is set between Civil War and Endgame. I'm not against this movie by any means. I've heard this is kind of an apology film from Kevin Feige to ScarJo, because he wasn't allowed to give her own film before, but now he can kind of make whatever he wants, essentially. So I think it's good that ScarJo gets her own film. That being said, this shouldn't be our return to the universe. Not only is it a prequel, which is already bad for a return because we want to know what's happening after Endgame, it's also a character we know has to live through this movie so she can die in Endgame, thus the tension isn't there at least as much. So if Black Widow is out, what about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Well, this is a continuation of character stories from after Endgame, but it kinda looks like Winter Soldier again. It's a similar spy espionage setting to Winter Soldier, which isn't bad, but to come back to the universe with a show that seems to feel a lot like one we already have is a bit lackluster. And that's about it for finished projects. I believe Loki was still filming, and outside of that they maybe had finished What If, but you don't want to come back with a hypothetical non-canon show. Not to mention it's animated, which would probably lower the amount of people interested in it, sadly. To be fair, I haven't seen any of these yet, so maybe they're incredible and I'm just an idiot. But at least for me, what I want to see from the MCU's return is something fresh, something new. Something that sets up the universe moving forward while also being new and innovative in and of itself. And WandaVision is exactly that. No MCU film has ever done anything close to parodying sitcoms through the decades. Even if the show was just that, I'm already there. And on top of that, it's continuing character and emotional arcs from Endgame. The deep depression sitting just beneath the surface of this show, with Wanda so devastated from losing Vision that she creates a fantasy world to live her favorite sitcoms out with her favorite person, is just brilliant, and raises the tension so well. We're constantly left wondering if Vision will figure out what's going on, or if Wanda will snap and everything will start to fall apart. It's so good. And it's the perfect way to get us reinterested and reinvested not only in these characters and their story, but also in the universe moving forward. So we're back on the MCU train and willing to watch some stuff that looked cool and is a bit more classic MCU. Now let's talk details. I was afraid going into this that we hadn't really seen Wanda or Vision as main characters. They work really well as side characters in various films, but I wasn't sure if they could carry their own show. I'm so glad I was so wrong. These two are fantastic. They have amazing chemistry together, I completely buy their relationship, and both Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany are incredible at selling not only the sitcom over-the-top silliness, but also the deep, emotional moments. The people clamoring for Olsen to win an award for this show are totally right. She deserves at least some recognition for how good this performance is. I have a similar fear with Falcon and Bucky in their show, so I hope my fear is unwarranted there as well. As far as the story goes, I loved it. I quite enjoy sitcoms, and seeing the references and homages to sitcoms over the decades was a lot of fun. I also really enjoyed watching the mystery unfold, and I'm so glad they stayed true to the idea that Wanda made this world without any outside influence from a villain or whatever. It just purely came from her immense grief. I said at the start of the show that if they ever undermined Wanda being the main force behind the Hex, it would ruin her emotional arc, so I'm glad they stuck to their guns. It also adds so much emotional weight to the show if she's the one who created this false reality, even if Agnes is messing with her in the background. Speaking of whom, I quite liked Agnes. Because I'm a nerd and I follow a lot of nerd pages and channels, I wasn't surprised when Agnes turned out to be Agatha Harkness, but I still enjoyed her character. She wasn't the best villain in the MCU, but she was perfectly fine for the role she played. I love seeing Evan Peters as Quicksilver again. Oh, wait, sorry, I misspoke. Let me check my notes. I enjoyed seeing Evan Peters as random guy pretending to be Quicksilver. What the crap, Marvel? That's low. You're gonna tease your fans who are dying to see Evan Peters as Quicksilver again like that? Let alone all the people dying for mutants in the MCU? Really? I hated that so much. It felt like Marvel did that just to mess with the fans. It would have been so easy to say he was just plucked from the many Quicksilvers in the multiverse. Then you have one of your post-credit scenes just be him in the X-Mansion getting sucked into the WandaVision reality. I recently rewatched Days of Future Past too, and I'm more convinced than ever that those actors are possibly the best incarnations of those characters. Honestly, I'd rather the MCU just absorb the X-Men universe rather than doing their own mutant thing. Or even just have them be a parallel universe or reality. Whatever, either way, the Evan Peters thing was cheap. Come on, Kevin Feige, you're better than that. Now to the other villain, Hayward. I don't know what it is recently with Disney's villains, but it happened in Mandalorian, and now it's happening again in WandaVision. Hayward is an absolute moron. First of all, why did you lie about Wanda stealing Vision's body? Wouldn't you be in more trouble with your bosses if you lost an asset like Vision than if you told them that Wanda made a second asset in Westview? Like, initially it seems like Sword is at Westview to re-obtain Vision, but it makes just as much sense to be there so you can obtain or destroy second Vision. But Hayward, the single most stupidest thing you did was try to shoot Wanda and then her kids with a regular gun. You're going to take out the strongest to second strongest being we've seen in this universe, depending on how powerful Captain Marvel is, by shooting her with regular guns. Are you a moron? Like seriously, how stupid are you? You think regular bullets are gonna stop the woman literally mind-controlling thousands of people at once? The woman who created a perfect replica of your sentient weapon out of thin air? The woman who created 2 children with powers? You should not be shocked whatsoever when she turns those guns on you. And the stupidest thing is, you have ways of getting bigger guns. You could contact Captain Marvel, the one Avenger that could possibly take Wanda in a fight. Sword was made by Captain Marvel's best friend. There is surely a way to contact her. Wanda is endangering potentially the entire planet if she expands the Hex, so I bet Captain Marvel would be willing to help. And even if she's busy, call Doctor Strange. Even Hulk should be able to help at least as much as Darcy does. I don't know why Disney has trended towards idiotic villains after Thanos, and maybe Mysterio, I don't remember that movie very well, but I hope it stops. Also, going back to Doctor Strange, why didn't he show up? Like, his whole shtick is magical disturbances, and Wanda has used chaos magic to control an entire town. And it's enough to attract the attention of Agnes, a witch. So why didn't he show up? Is this too small scale? Hopefully we get an explanation in his movie. I should also say that I didn't really care for Monica's story in this show. It started out really solid with her return from the snap, which was a really awesome scene, by the way. I thought it was cool to see the stress and chaos that would cause, especially in a hospital, as opposed to how it's portrayed in Far From Home, where everyone's just like, yay, everyone's back, good times. But anyway, Monica's story is good up until she gets thrown out of the Hex. Then she goes rogue to help Wanda, seemingly just because. We fully understand later that I guess the logic was the pain she felt through Wanda's mind control reminded her of the pain she felt losing her mother, and so she related to Wanda in that way. But that wasn't said very well at all when she got out of the Hex. It was only really said in the finale. Also, her powers and use in this show feel very fan service character-y, but for a character we don't know yet. I said the same about some characters from Mando Season 2, but she feels like all those fan service characters in that show, where she's just here to set up her next thing, which presumably is Captain Marvel 2. Also, she doesn't really help Wanda that much. She stops the bullets from hitting the kids, but the kid stops a bullet on his own, and the other kid can run super fast, so it's rather unnecessary. Either way, I didn't hate her character, I just wish they had told us her motivations clearly earlier on. Also, why did the show build up that aerospace engineer she knew just for it to be some lady? Like, am I missing something? Is she someone we know? The show focuses multiple times on the fact that she knows someone who can help them get into the Hex, but then it's just some lady that, from my memory, we've never seen before. And also the thing doesn't even work. It's built up for like 2 episodes just to fail, and Monica has to walk back through on her own anyway. My last major gripe is with the finale. The Vision v Vision fight was fine, and again I really liked the scene where they logicked it out. Classic Vision. But the Wanda v Agnes fight was super lame. It was just a classic MCU final battle of people flying and shooting lasers at each other. When I hear that there's a fight between 2 witches, this is not what I think of. I think of this. Or this. Or this. But not this. Also, I remember hearing that a lot of fans were mad that there wasn't any action in the first few episodes, but honestly, I loved that. I thought it worked so well for the story they were telling. And in the end, I didn't even like the action we got. With all those gripes aside, though, I really did like this show. I think it did its job of getting us reinterested in the universe and these characters moving forward really well. I really love Wanda's arc in this show. The reruns episode going back through her past was absolutely fantastic. Probably my favorite episode. Everyone said it, but Vision's line here is fantastic.
But what is grief? If not love, persevering.
I love the new Scarlet Witch costume. I think it looks great, and it's a great homage to the classic suit. I'm also glad they finally gave Elizabeth Olsen a suit that didn't force her to show a bunch of cleavage. She said before that was super uncomfortable, and this suit looks way better anyway, so good on them. Also, I love that for most of the third act, Wanda's just wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt. Like, I am right there with you, Wanda. If I had to fight an evil witch, I'd want to be as comfy as possible. I recently got a pair of sweatpants that actually fit me because I'm super tall and it's hard to find things that actually fit, and they're my favorite thing right now. I wear them all the time. They're so comfy. Anyway, sorry. I also love Paul Bettany. He did a fantastic job showing Vision slowly piecing together this mystery. And I love seeing them play a couple through the different decades of sitcoms. They played each era so well. Overall, I think this is one of the better entries in the MCU, but it has a few flaws. At the end of the day, though, it did its job. I'm really interested in the future of the MCU, so good job, WandaVision, you got me. It also left me with more questions than I started with. Like, is Wanda a mutant? Or is she just magic? And how did Quicksilver survive the Mind Stone if Wanda only survived because she's magic? Was he a mutant too and the stone unlocked his abilities? Did Wanda protect him with her magic? Also, Wanda made her kids. Did she make them souls? How could she hear them through the Darkhold? Are their souls trapped somewhere? If Wanda could make anything out of thin air, why didn't she make a Quicksilver? Or her parents again? Also, what are Monica's powers? Is she like a gel that stops bullets now? Also, Monica got her powers because she went through the Hex a few times. Does that mean everyone in the Hex has powers? Or the potential for powers? Are they mutants? Is Monica a mutant? Are Wanda's kids mutants? Where is White Vision? Is he full Vision now since he has the memories? Or does he still lack emotion? What is the Scarlet Witch? Is Wanda the only one? Or is it like a title that's passed down? Why aren't I allowed in the danger room? Why is there a mystery house 100 meters from my office? What happened to Mahogany Boy?
He'd like to meet with you.
Where?
Is he on the roof? Or in the rafters? Monica, look up. She pointed up. Monica, look up. He could be right above you like Batman.
Good evening.
Look up.